And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another episode of my ongoing weekly series Valiant till the last. And in today's weekly instalment we are going to be looking at the Rye hardcover. For those of you that have been watching the series since the very beginning, you will be aware that my original bookshelf, or at least the pictures that I showed of my original bookshelf, didn't actually have this hardcover on it. This turned up in the post whilst I've been doing this long read-through process. And so here we are. This is Rye. So we've already looked at one volume of Rye. That was called Rye Volume 1. This one hasn't got a number to it, which is weird for lots of reasons, which we'll talk about more in a moment. Let's have a look at the hardcover itself. This does not have the standardised Valiant format that we're familiar with from the 2012 to 2018 era. This is a hardcover from what I consider to be the DMG era. In other words, after DMG Entertainment bought out Dinesh Shamdasani as the owner. So what we have here is a solid blue spine, which is unusual because most of the DMG era hardcovers have white spines. There's a blue spine here. I like the cover. I love the artwork on this. I think it's a Jay Lee bit of artwork. And then the back has a much more conventional kind of format there. Let's have a look inside on the French flap. So we've got standard there and standard there. I love the fact that it's two-tone, that it goes from being white to being blue. I think it's a cool little feature. I've done that with some of my own custom dust jackets in the past. Let's have a look under the cover. So if we're looking at the hardcover raw, we can see that it's got the foil emboss here. Unlike the previous foil emboss of the first season of Rye, this hasn't got anything sort of hidden inside it, but it does have this really cool Rye sigil there. The spine looks great. Like a lot of these later era DMG hardcovers, it actually has the logo styling on the side, which is a very cool feature. And then a nice clean back. Okay, so what's inside this then? So this collector's edition actually collects two different series, but I'm doing it all in the same video because it's all in the same hardcover. So what we have is Rye, but to start off with, we actually have the Fallen World 5-issue miniseries. And subsequent to the Fallen World 5-issue miniseries, we then have 10 issues of Rye 2019, and that's the entirety of that series. Issues 1 to 5 are collected in a hardcover trade paperback called Fatherland, and the last 5 issues are collected in a trade paperback called Wild Frontiers. And then we've got the usual kind of gallery features and some extra stuff we'll talk about in a second. So, the interesting thing about this is that this is the second series of Rye. The first series of Rye was collected in the hardcover we looked at a few weeks ago, which was Rye Volume 1. This isn't called Rye Volume 1, it's just, as you can see here, it's just Rye, as if it's a series of self-contained stories. However, it ends on a clear cliffhanger, and frankly, I'm really surprised that they haven't continued this series as an ongoing, and it just feels weird that that's not the case. This is clearly the first part of a story, there's still lots more to tell. It feels weird that they haven't done a Rye Volume 2. I guess they're going to do another series of Rye, perhaps at some point, although Valiant is in a very odd position as a publisher at the moment. Okay, so these are the 5 covers for the Fallen World. It's a 5-issue miniseries. It's basically really good. It's set directly after the events of 4001 AD. Spoiler warning, I guess. New Japan is essentially sent crashing to Earth and loses its orbit. And so it's really about the fallen world, the fallen sectors of New Japan, the impact and context of them being there. So, let's see. This is issue 1. It's cool. It's well written. It's well put together. The antagonist in it is again Father, or the main antagonist from the 4001 AD and original Rye series. One thing it does do, which I thought was very clever, is it actually brings back the context and the point of the Bloodshot 4001 AD one-shot, which at the time felt very disconnected and kind of useless. But this story recontextualizes that to make it really interesting, and you really kind of see the usefulness of it. It also reintroduces the character of Anna, who is War Mother from the 4001 AD War Mother one-shot, and then the intervening miniseries War Mother, which was set between 4001 AD and the release of Fallen World. So it's got her in this with her cool talking gun. This doesn't build on the events of the War Mother miniseries at all. If you haven't read the War Mother miniseries, you will be absolutely fine. That doesn't appear to have any impact or any consequences that are of relevance to this story, as I'd kind of suspected, and so that's good to know. Still a good story. I'm still definitely gonna keep it, but it's not something that's worth going to the effort of having a deluxe hardcover made. So this is the general story now. This is the Fallen World story. It's again, Anna's in it. It introduces other previous characters we've seen before, like Gilad, the Eternal Warrior, is introduced. The Geomancer is introduced. It's basically a great, interesting story, and it works really well as a standalone miniseries. Some epic moments, as you can tell. So yeah, highly recommended. That then goes seamlessly into Fatherland, which is the actual issues of Rye. So issues of Rye 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Before we dive into this in any more detail, one thing I will point out is this is written by Dan Abnett. I am a huge Dan Abnett fan. His comics are really good. Really loved his Guardians of the Galaxy work and so on, what he did with Andy Lanning. But I'm also a massive fan of his prose. If you are interested in Dan Abnett, I would strongly recommend picking up his Games Workshop stuff, so stuff set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So I went into this with really high hopes, and it felt like they were really well paid off. The end of Fallen World ends with this kind of, I was going to say lone wolf and cub, it's not, but it's very much kind of a wandering samurai kind of feel to the story. And I think I've heard other people mention that Rai is very much like a Ronin kind of story, like it's a wandering masterless samurai, trekking across a post-apocalyptic world with a young charge in tow. I won't go into details of who this is, but obviously, a child is with him. So it's kind of like a father-son dynamic, and a lone wolf and cub dynamic, a Last of Us dynamic, however you want to talk about it. It has that kind of feel, which is really enjoyable, and I really, really liked it, and it maintained that theme and that tone really well. Artwork is exceptional. We've got a lot of Brett Booth artwork. We've got a lot of other stuff here, which is just really well put together. The writing is really strong. The basic premise of this actually feels very much like something set up for a video game. In that, and I guess this is a bit of a spoiler, a father needs 12 things in order to win. And he's only got 3 of these things. And so it's up to these guys to destroy the rest of these things before father can get them and therefore destroy the world or whatever it is he wants to do. So it's kind of like, it almost feels like level-based questing, as in, they're there, they go from A, they go to B, they have to do the thing, then they go to the next place, they have to do the thing again, they go to the next place, they have to do the thing again. It can be a bit formulaic, but it does lend itself to this kind of storytelling, in that it's kind of a mythic quest-building storytelling. Look at this artwork. I think this is Brett Booth again, with the dinosaur love. And this is Gilad, the Eternal Warrior, returning again. So like I say, it very much feels this kind of mythic, quest-based, almost video game-like storyline. Now, by the end of this series, by the end of this hardcover, there's still loads of outstanding quests. They destroyed a few of these things, but there's loads more of these things to destroy. So they definitely could have kept this series going on for ages. And I don't know why it stopped when it did. Another point to make is that, again, this makes loads of references to loads of other stuff that's been going on in the Valiant universe. And as such, whilst I love this story, and this, by the way, is brilliant. I love this Rye hardcover. It's probably the best out of the Rye stuff I've been reading. It's better than Rye, better than 4001 AD. But obviously it builds and compounds all the stuff we've done in the previous series. What I will say is that I really should have read all this at the end. I feel like had I read this after reading Shadow Man and Archer and Armstrong and that sort of stuff, which I haven't as yet done, I feel that if I read this after reading all the rest of the Valiant universe, this would be even better. As it is, it's really, really good. Awesome bit of artwork there. As it is, it's really, really good. But I feel like some of the context has been slightly lost on me, and I imagine after I've read the whole Valiant universe, I will go back and this is the thing I will reread again. Yeah. These guys are quite cool. This guy's quite funny. Basically, they're these genetically engineered human-animal hybrids who are soldiers, and they lived in New Japan in 4001 AD. What they reminded me of was the Elephant Men. I don't know if you've ever read the comic Elephant Men. I will do, or I have done, a video, little known comics you should try about the Elephant Men, and I would really strongly recommend them. Deeply underrated as a comic series. But yeah, this reminded me of that. Otherwise, yeah, like I say, this is definitely something where it's a great fun read, really well drawn, really well written, well paced, highly recommended. This is probably the best Valiant has been since I read Imperium quite a way back. So hugely recommended. This whole 4001 AD arc is fantastic. We then had this one shot, Rye, the History of the Valiant Universe, which it says here, I don't know if you can see, that this takes place before Fallen World, but they stuck it right at the end of the hardcover, which, to be honest, works absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with it. And this talks about loads of things. One of the things it does a recap of all the events of the Valiant universe to date. So, Exo Manowar, Bloodshot, Harbingers, all that sort of thing. It also, and this is my point, it recaps some of the stuff in the comics I haven't read. Archer and Armstrong, Shadow Man, things like that. And I guess it kind of highlighted to me it would have been better had I read everything before I read this. This story from Rye, 4001 AD, War Mother to Fallen World, and then this series of Rye is kind of the capstone. It's the fitting end piece for the entirety of the Valiant universe. And I've read it, I've loved it, but I feel like I would love it even more had I read all the other stuff. There's Jin GR from Exo Manowar. Like I say, it's just got all these Easter eggs and all these stories and all these summaries of things that I've either read or I haven't read yet. And that's the final issue. And then it goes into the gallery. There we are. And the gallery is the standard gallery stuff. So there we have it. That is the Rye hardcover edition. This, I think, is my most recent addition to my hardcover collection. Obviously, I'm continuing to purchase Valiant hardcovers. I think the most recent one being solicited is the new Exo Manowar one by Dennis Hopeless, which I didn't really enjoy the story of, but I'm so committed to the Valiant universe now at this point that I am going to continue buying the hardcovers until they stop making them, I think. Which, given the sort of current state and ambiguity around Valiant's position as a publisher, is going to happen at some point, I imagine. Okay, well, thanks for watching, as always. What are we doing next time? Well, this is the end of the Rye universe and the 4001 AD kind of Arkham universe. So next time, what I thought I might do is I thought I might finally jump into the Eternal Warrior. Now, I do have a hardcover, Wrath of the Eternal Warrior. It's a 14-issue series. But that's not where I'm going to be jumping in, because what I've discovered is that there is actually a couple of Eternal Warrior series before then. There's Eternal Warrior, there was a short miniseries, and then there was an even smaller 3-issue miniseries called Eternal Warrior Days of Steel. So I think that's what I'll do next time. I'll start reading the Eternal Warrior uncollected issues, and then I'll move into Eternal Warrior, the collected deluxe edition, which hopefully you've got, or you can pick up as trade paperback anyway. And yeah, if you're reading along, that's your homework for next time. Okay, and with that, before I forget, and I literally only remembered when I was editing this video, I want to show you how we've got on with our kind of very notional prototype reading map of the Valiant universe, which you should be able to see here. So looking pretty messy. I haven't really had a chance to tidy it up. The app that I'm using, which is the draw.io app, is a bit fiddly. I'm getting better and better with it. But long story short, as you can see here, we've got the Valiant stuff, the Harbinger stuff on the left. It branches in with Bloodshot there in the middle. We've got Exo Manowar and all the stuff we did there with Unity as an offshoot. And then on the right, we've got Ninjak and the various Ninjak stories. And then here at the bottom, I'm putting, as you can see, I'm going to put Rye 4001 AD, War Mother, and then the Rye 2019 hardcover as well. I suspect that what's probably going to happen is that these are going to stay at the bottom, and I'll probably, when I go into the next set of reading, which as I said is going to be Eternal Warrior and the Three Brothers and eventually Shadow Man and stuff like that, they're all going to sprawl out on the right hand side of this messy area up here. And then what I'll probably have is everything coming in and combining with the Rye arc of 4 stories there right at the end. I suspect that's probably what's going to happen. I do need to put in some more time just messing around with this and making it work. Yeah. Until then, this is kind of where I am, and the map will continue to grow. I'm hoping to add some snazzy functionality to it and maybe have something quite cool on my website once I get to the end of this. But a little bit of work still to be done on that. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.